Welcome to the Words in Chalk podcast. I am 76.
And I am Jake Nathan.
And he's Aaron Shrimpton.
Yeah, we've got Aaron as well. He's the third, number 3.
He is number 3.
In rank.
But in my heart, he's number 1.
He'll always be number 1 to me.
Yeah. He's got great hair.
He's got great hair.
Director.
It's a pretty good beard as well.
He's got a good beard. A very good beard.
Yeah. And then he does direction and he's a spoken word poet.
Yeah.
Very good one.
A successful photographer.
Yeah, he's a talented man.
He's a decent guy,
He's
isn't
not
he?
just a hair and beard man.
Yeah.
I went to New Waverley Studios for the first time the other day.
Oh, really?
To do a bit
What floor did you go up to?
I think we worked on the 8th. He didn't want to take me all the way up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I won't say what we said.
Was it about the time you took me up the Oxford Tower in London?
No, it wasn't.
No? Oh, right. Have you ever taken anyone up the Oxford Tower?
No, I've never taken anyone up the Oxford Tower.
No, you should. It's good.
I tried it on my own once.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I didn't really want to into it.
No?
It didn't do much for me.
Fair enough. Where can we find you on Instagram?
I'm Jake Nathan Creates on Instagram. What are you?
I'm 76 Spoken on Instagram.
We're also words.in.chalk on Instagram.
We are.
You can go there to see clips of the event that we just run.
Yeah, it was a great event.
It was off the chain.
It was off the chain. It sold out.
Sold out. Every ticket gone. We had to turn people away on the door.
We did. That was my least favourite part of the evening, actually. Cause
I quite enjoyed it.
Did you?
Yeah,
I just don't like seeing the tears and it hurt people.
Well, I had to fight that one guy, and he did win, but he didn't come in, so I got the moral victory.
Mate, he was a massive 5'3" as well.
Yeah.
He was enormous 5'3".
It's the biggest 5'3" I've ever seen.
Yeah, 100%. But no, every artist was fantastic.
Wonderful. Yeah, we had such talent there.
We did.
I'm already looking forward to the next one.
Yeah. Nas's spoken word was incredible.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't know what he'd be like off the beat, but yeah, he was alright.
He was alright. Well, Sheeran did the guitar behind him, didn't he?
Once Sheeran got up and gave him a bit of music, it was better.
Yeah, because I'm not doing a live event in Britain if it doesn't involve Sheeran.
I think that's a law, though, isn't it?
Beckham. It's a law. Yeah, you have to.
If they're not there, it doesn't count.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's why they're everywhere.
Absolutely everywhere, yeah.
Because if they weren't, it didn't exist.
No. We put Beckham in a queue outside just as a reference.
Yeah.
That went down well.
Yeah. And it was really nice of Schofield to do the door for us.
Yeah, he got a bit handsy when he was checking people, but
that's when you had to step in.
He did it for free.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good guy, Schofield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love a bit of Scof.
Who doesn't?
People in the queue.
Yeah, and his showrunners. So today's episode is about creative anxiety.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I think we'll get a little bit of it, at least. Probably a lot of it.
Yeah, it spans a few different areas, creative anxiety. There could be a lack of belief in yourself, being the classic perfectionist who doesn't put stuff out.
Yeah. Yeah, and then just the belief that your work isn't as good as other people's, or that other people are more of an artist or poet.
They deserve to be there, you don't. Yeah.
Imposter syndrome.
Definitely imposter syndrome. It's a phrase that gets thrown around.
The first time I did it, when I was thinking about doing spoken word for the first time, I was 100% sure that I was going to turn up at a poetry night, do a poem, and people would just say, "No, you're rapping, go home." I'm 100% sure that they weren't. They would just be like, "No, this is not for you." But actually,
checking their bags for rotten tomatoes and mouldy veg, just in case.
Yeah, well, I was hoping it wasn't mouldy, but
I was hoping it was fresh, so I could catch it in my mouth.
Yeah, I was a bit hungry.
Yeah, they paid me in radishes this evening. I'm really happy.
I actually did a night. My friend Tommy Carver Chaplin used to run a night called Radish Rhymes.
Oh, cool.
Radish.
Nice.
Rhymes.
Yeah, I like it.
It's a good name. It's a good night. It's a very good night. And he's a very good poet.
What's his name?
Tommy Carver Chaplin.
Tommy Carver Chaplin.
Tommy Carver Chaplin.
Hunting down team.
Yeah, he's got some weird Instagram name. I don't think he wants any attention, but he deserves it because he's very good.
Yeah, hunt him down. So talk me through this first night then. What were you nervous about? Why did you think that they thought you was going to be pointed towards the door because you were rapping?
Well, I said in the previous podcast when I was talking about Mum's a Schemer, who I saw on Def Poetry Jam. I saw a criticism of him online where people were saying that he's not a poet, he's just a rapper, and he was doing much more like poetry stuff than I was. I think if you watch him do poetry, you'll realise the criticism's ridiculous now. But at the time, I was like, well, if they're saying that about him, well, they're not going to like me. But eventually, I had enough people tell me, like, just get up and do it. You've got to try it. You're good. And I plucked up the courage to do it. I was writing a poem, which I thought at the time was the best poem I'd ever written. And I promised myself that when I'd finished that poem, I'd perform. And I got writer's block on it for like a year or 2 years, but eventually finished it in the car on the way to work one day. And I was like, right, I've got to do it. So I did it. I signed up. I didn't know any poetry nights. So I went to music open night. I think I said that last time as well. But yeah, I got up and did it. I was lucky enough to meet another poet there who liked what I did, invited me to his show, and I went to his show and met more poets and realised that actually the poetry community is very supportive.
Yeah, I think that's something to remember, is that your peers are generally super supportive.
Yeah.
And the audience are there to see you and wish you to do well and perform. But I don't know who goes to a gig or a show to heckle and take the piss and make
I was just going to
like
say,
1 out of 100 people maybe.
Yeah, it turns out the people that go to poetry shows like poetry. So it is quite a supportive environment. They are getting what they're there to see.
And arguably, poetry it's the use and celebration of words.
Yeah.
And that doesn't have to rhyme.
Nope.
It doesn't have to take, don't have to do like stanzas or couplets or whatever you want to do. It's an expression of yourself through words, right? Yeah. And that's what I think people enjoy, the creativity behind that. But
yeah, I think that is the beauty of spoken word. Like, it takes away all of the the stuff that we worry about. Like, people are not going to think this is complicated enough, or I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to write poetry. I don't know how to work a stanza. It's just about how you deliver it. So it takes all of the extra worries out of it, and like you don't have to worry about these punters that are sitting there in, I think we've mentioned them before, but their berets and their roll necks,
their scarves with and they've bought their own Starbucks cup that they own. Yeah. I do own my own Starbucks cup as well, by the way.
Well, that's just responsible, isn't it?
It is.
Your experience is a little bit different to mine, in that you would go in to a poetry event and you'd been to a poetry event before you performed. How did you feel before your first event?
Before I performed on that week that I came to do the open mic, I almost performed. I felt quite aggressive and defensive at the same time.
Yeah.
But I think that was my form of self-defence. Is that the right self-defence? Is that the right word? That's the right term, isn't it?
Yeah, like protecting
self-protection.
yourself.
Self-defence. And I'd written 2 pieces to perform. One was about being nervous, and the other one was about one of my pet peeves, which is people talking during a performance.
Yeah.
So whether you're hosting a meeting with colleagues, whether you're doing a speech at a wedding, performing a poem, and someone's having their own conversation and whispering, drives me nuts. So that, rewind to the week before when I went and I met you and I saw Aaron perform, something I noticed was there was people whispering amongst themselves when people were performing.
Yeah.
So first of all, I wrote the thing because I'm nervous, because I was nervous, and secondly, I thought, no, fuck this, I'm going to use this as a platform.
Yeah.
Because I'm a hip hop fan, and you've got people like Chuck D.
Yeah.
You've got people like Rakim, or those earlier rappers that were almost like political or fire starters, if you will.
Yeah.
So I thought I was going to use some kind of hip hop influence. So I wrote a poem called "Excuse Me Please." And the opening line is, "Excuse me, please, am I interrupting your fucking performance?" And that kind of gets everyone's attention.
Yeah.
And I could feel that all day I was thinking about it, and I had that kind of apprehension, anxiety, that nerves.
Yeah.
Like, what if this doesn't land?
You've got to deliver this properly.
Yeah, exactly. And when I stood up at the mic and I looked out, brilliantly, there were 2 people standing in the corner talking.
Yeah.
And I just shouted, "Excuse me, please, am I interrupting your fucking performance? And they both stopped and looked. And then I kind of smirked and carried on into the rest of the poem. But
to this day, they don't know that you wrote that.
Yeah, exactly. So I had that anxiety about performing, but equally I thought I'm going to tackle it head on and just go in offensive and aggressive.
You went very hip hop with it.
I did, yeah.
I think like if you're coming from a hip hop background, like aggressive is probably a route you're going to take, and you get that when you go to especially like events in London, and you get poets, particularly like newer poets, they're getting up, and a lot of our influences are hip hop. Mine are hip hop, but they'll perform it very rappy, and it'll be like aggressive. Like when you see a kid, I remember seeing these kids on Britain's Got Talent rapping a song about their dead granddad, but they rapped
Bars and Melody.
Was that there?
It was Bars and Melody, yeah.
But they rapped it like it was a gangster rap track. It's like so aggressive, and I think that's just people think you've got to perform.
Yeah.
But it's something that comes with time. It's like you develop your performance style, and you definitely get better as the more you do it.
It's true, definitely true. I think another part of creative anxiety is sharing something that's personal that you've written.
Yeah.
Because I can write stuff, and I'll change my mind on either an idea or a line because it's personal.
Yeah.
And I don't know how ready I am to share personal stuff yet.
Yeah.
With an audience.
I'm sort of the opposite. I sort of lay it all out there, and it's almost easier for me to talk to a room full of people about it than it is for me to talk to someone one-on-one. So I've got a couple of different poems that are really emotional to me. One in particular where I perform it, and I can feel how I felt when I was writing it, and I can almost get to the point of tears sometimes when I'm performing it. I had one person come up to me after a show once and was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And you got really upset doing that poem, and I've sort of mastered the performance of it. Like I've dealt with that stuff, but I do write really.
That's the authenticity of you can tell when a piece is all authentic.
Yeah.
And especially, in music, poetry, whatever it might be, even if it's instrumental, you can tell if it's an authentic, personal piece or not.
Yeah. But because just standing in front of a room full of people and saying anything, I get more worried about. I'm more than happy to tell people about my life falling apart. But if I'd rather
you didn't this evening, though.
We'll see how it goes. Don't tell me what to do. If I write a line that I want to be funny, I'm much more worried about that landing than I am about sharing something personal.
Mate, I completely understand that. I completely agree with that.
I got one poem called "Things I Would Wish on My Worst Enemy," which is essentially a list of nasty things I want to happen to people I don't like. And the first time I performed that, I was like, "What if nobody laughs at this? It's going to be the most, like, the horriblest poem."
What if all my worst enemies have turned up tonight accidentally, like coincidentally?
Yeah. My ex-wife heard it once. We're very good friends now, but it was when everything was a bit more fresh, and she heard it. She saw it on my Instagram. She was like, "Who's this about?" She thought I'd written it about her, but I didn't. No, we're very good mates now. I would never do any such thing about her.
You can admit it now. She's not going to listen to this, is she?
No, she's definitely not going to listen to this. But I'm being authentic here, so it wasn't written about her. It was just an idea I had. Like, so I heard you hear the phrase often, "I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy," and I just thought, what would I wish on my worst enemy? And that was how it came about.
I love how ideas for spoken word kind of, you get to like I don't know what it is, like an intuition or a muscle memory or something, where you can be doing anything, anywhere, and something will spark.
Yeah, I think you have to
get an idea for a piece.
You sort of get used to opening yourself up creatively, because it comes easier the more you do it. Just recognising it in a moment, that's a good idea, and just making a note of it and coming back to it at a later date.
Yeah.
And because I love to get an idea for a poem, and then I'll make a note of it on my phone, and just sort of sit with it until I get a line pop into my head, and I'll start writing it from there.
Yeah. I don't panic if that doesn't happen either.
No, give it time.
But I'm not stressing if I haven't written anything in a week or two, or if I don't have any new pieces, because no one's waiting for it.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to trip myself up by thinking there's hundreds of people, tens of people, thinking where's Stu's next poem, or 76's next poem. If I was a signed music artist, I'd probably be panicking. That's the whole second album, third album, panicking it really. But I'm not under pressure from anything. So
I'm lucky in that I started in Kent.
What do you call me?
let's move past this. I said it one time. Yeah, I started in Kent with my poetry, and did like loads of poetry in Kent, and then I moved to Essex. So now I'm doing shows in London and Essex, and I get to sort of like come onto the scene with all this material already. So if I don't write anything for like the next year, I've got enough poems to get through the events I'm doing.
Go, yeah.
And I like, especially at a new event, I like to go in strong and do like my best work. Just let them know like Jake's good, book him, and then I'll bring the weaker stuff next time.
So when you, going back to the anxiety bit about what you're creating, so when you've written a piece, how long does it take you to be comfortable with what you've written? Because sorry, the reason I asked that is that perfectionist thing.
Yeah.
Like if you're a painter, a music producer, a builder, anything, you'll constantly be sanding the corners.
Yeah, absolutely. I sort of, I'll finish. I'll get to a point where I feel like it's finished, or I'll get to a point where I've not got anything else to write at that time. Then I'll record it on a voice note on my phone and listen to it. Because I'm writing it to perform it. So at that point is when I do my editing, really, like take out any superfluous words, take out any words that make something too long or too short, add something in if it needs something more. That's when I start the editing process of it. But I don't do a massive amount of editing. It's more, I like generally what I get down the first time is most of what's going to be there. It's just about the performance of it from that point and making sure that it feels right in my mouth. There's like you say a line and you can feel that it doesn't fit, which is, I think, is an important reason that you should record your stuff and listen to yourself.
I think that's a fantastic bit of advice. I do exactly the same. I think I remember you mentioned it to me before, but saying stuff out loud, if it looks good on the page, but you're saying it and your tongue trips or your lips can't move quick enough, change that word or get rid of that word before it.
Yeah, even when you're writing it in your head,
difference.
sometimes you write it and it looks and feels like it's going to fit the flow and fit the rhythm and the pace of what you're doing, and then as soon as you say it out loud, you stumble over that line, and you go back and you think, maybe you didn't come into it right, and you can say that line a different way, and it does work. But if you're trying that a few times and you're stumbling every single time, it's probably time to rewrite that line, and it might be the case of taking out a syllable or adding a syllable. It could be as small as that. But
so this confuses me. Just on that point is, I'll listen to existing like rap songs, for example, and they haven't changed that word, and it doesn't fit.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, how have you not rewritten that? Or have you asked anyone for feedback or whatever it might be? I mean, obviously they're confident with what they're doing, otherwise they wouldn't have recorded it and got it out. But you just think it's really important to.
Yeah.
Different. So the other thing I was going to add on to that is that you've got an audience they've got to listen to.
Absolutely,
and they're not through your thought process. They haven't gone through that journey. And if it's difficult for them to hear, then
I noticed that in rap songs sometimes, and just think, why have you not fixed that line? And you can hear it more if you listen to an a cappella. Like sometimes the beat will disguise thoughts in your writing.
True.
But you listen to an a cappella and you're like, oh, that sounded a bit awkward there. And
you've got the confiner, the kick and the snare.
Yeah.
So it is a skill, but equally you should be adept at that.
You
skill.
don't necessarily need it to sound good in an a cappella as long as it sounds good on the beat. But you do, like proper writers, you hear things in there like, that sounded a bit awkward to me. But then who are you to change their art? Everyone's got their own stuff.
I was going to use an extreme example. Something we were talking about earlier was Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
Is that I think if he was just a spoken word poet, I'd get it. But I can't listen. I find it tough listening to his music because his words don't hit the beat.
Yeah.
He's an instrument, a jazz instrument over the top of it. I get it. But I can't listen to it.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's a good explanation of Kendrick Lamar, actually. He is more like an instrument than like a lot of rappers. It's all like they're like a singer on a record where they are like the main event. They're clear and punchy, whereas Kendrick does seem to treat himself
like freeform, isn't he?
Yeah, it does treat himself like a solo on a track.
Yeah. That's why I'm happy to say that I don't get it or I don't listen to him.
Yeah. One
of my beefs is when people say so and so shit.
Yes.
Like, I don't understand that. Right, someone with millions of fans isn't shit. it's just not your thing.
Yeah,
so
that's
just
why
say it's not your thing.
That's why I stopped watching football for years. I got fed up with football fans. The only thing they ever said was so and so shit.
Arsenal are shit.
Yeah, we're talking about Arsenal,
What?
Man United, but Arsenal shit. No, they finished fourth in the Premier League. That's like
Yeah, they're world
one
class
of the best teams in the world.
Yeah.
They might not have won that game. But yeah, that's I stopped watching football for years because I just hate football fans. And I'm an Arsenal fan, and Arsenal fans are fucking terrible for it.
Mate, I'm a massive football, as you know, like we're both massive football fans, but I can't deal with football fans, and I can't have football conversations. I cannot.
No.
I avoid football conversations.
Yeah, but then you do
Drives
get
me
the same
nuts.
stuff with music. Like, oh, this is shit. It's like, no. Things, you're allowed to not get things and then not be shit. Like, some things can be great and they're just not for you.
There's one bit of criticism somebody had once for hip hop, which really upset me, but equally I really respected it. Is there were some younger kids at work, so they were like early 20s, so they've grown up with, well, effectively like Drake and like the more like commercial, high energy, like vibey stuff. And I was like, you know, so before you were born, like I probably shouldn't have started the conversation like that, but before you were born, when I was in my 20s, Drake wouldn't be around if it wasn't for this, or so and so wouldn't be around if it wasn't for this artist. Like, just check it out, just check out the history of it, and then let me know what you think. And what they thought was it was all boring, boring. 90s hip hop to that, like fucking Illmatic, Enter the 36, like any of those. It's boring. But I get it 100%. I understand. It's a different music.
They're
They're both dead now.
They listen to different. They listen to different, like drill. I can't get drill.
Drew Hill?
Drill.
Oh, Drill. I thought you said
alright
Drew
with Drew
Hill.
Hill.
Why did you bring Drew Hill up?
My Cisco's a prick.
He is. But the Jermaine Dupri remix of In My Bed's a fucking banger. So.
Yeah, fair play. Yeah, drill is not, because I think probably because I come from that school of hip hop with Nas and Wu-Tang and people like that. Like, I listen to drill and I'm like, you've got no presence on the mic. You're not doing anything that's like too skilled. The whole like, you're a good drill rapper if people believe that you're selling drugs is like that seems to be the only thing. If little kids think you're hard, then you can be a drill rapper. Like, I don't get half of, but then I'm old now.
What creative anxiety do you think drill rappers and modern, like the quote unquote mumble rap, drill rap,
I imagine
trap rap, they get
drill rappers are probably worried that someone's going to come to the studio and realise they haven't got a gun on them,
right?
Or something like that. Get a can out.
Why are you taking a piss now, Jake?
We can't stop the podcast. There's a jug here. What am I gonna?
Why didn't I think that through?
Why am I going to walk through the room?
I get a feeling that drill trap, etc. That's about a vibe.
Yeah, it's definitely about
not about lyrics.
Yeah.
But then that conflicts with me because if you've got a
Yeah,
platform
hip-hop
to
is
have your
about
voice
lyrics.
heard, say something, and it can be about drugs or guns or clubs.
Yeah, no,
it can be,
absolutely.
but just make it good.
Yeah, there obviously that because I got into hip hop listening to gangster rappers. I wasn't not listening to gangster rap or things about this stuff. Like, it wasn't my life at all. But these people were like telling stories that I loved. There are definitely ways to do it where you can talk about stuff and I'm going to dig it. It's just I need you to have some skill. And the thing that I hate most about drill rappers is they don't seem to have any presence on the mic.
Yeah.
I want someone to deliver a bar, and they've got like these whiny little voices, and they're just trying to sound cool, but they sound like little kids trying to impress each other. Like,
ultimately, that's what they are.
Yeah, I guess so.
I guess what we said earlier about being authentic.
Yeah.
You know when someone's authentic and genuine, and it's coming from an emotion inside them.
Yeah.
Or they're writing for them and their mates.
True. I just feel like everyone should aspire to have the presence of Chuck D.
Mate, everyone should be Chuck D.
And when you look at certain rappers and you admire certain things about them, I just feel like Chuck D's delivery and presence.
Most of Public Enemy's beats are over 100 BPM.
Never thought about that.
Yeah, but he rhymes at like 80 BPM, which only really occurred to me recently because I was trying to like rap along to Rebel Without a Pause or whatever else, and it occurred to me that he's actually a lot slower than the beat.
Yeah.
but because he's so authoritative,
He's got such a powerful delivery.
no, not a word wasted
No.
at all. Just unbelievable. He's never mentioned in the top 10 or top 20 rappers either.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that I would bring him up in my top 10. But if we're talking about like delivery and presence, I know he's up there.
100%.
Who's better than Chuck D in terms of delivery and presence?
Not many.
I don't know anyone that's going.
And that's not to say that other people aren't fantastic.
No, there's a lot of great rappers who've got great presence, but yeah, no one's Chuck D in that regard.
Nope. And the D is for dangerous.
Is it really?
It is. My middle name begins with I'm Stuart D. Mangan.
Yeah.
And I like to say that the D stands for
danger.
For David.
You got me there.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
Yeah, I wonder if Chuck D feels anxiety about performance, or if he's like fuck you all, I'm Chuck D. Because that's what it sounds like.
Well, I wonder because he's so confident and he believes so much in what he's saying.
Yeah, he's always got
on
a
his
message.
platform. He's a leader.
Yeah.
He's a Jesse Jackson or a Malcolm X or a Martin Luther King.
Yeah, 100%.
He's got an audience
Yeah.
that he needs to influence and educate. These drill rappers don't.
No, that's true.
But I think that's a way to.
Yeah.
Just off the back of that, when I think about myself performing, I love watching people perform.
Yeah, me too.
But not just music artists, like presentations, etc. So one of the things that influenced me in the past was when I was a kid. My dad's a teacher. I used to see him delivering like assemblies to pupils or adults, parents who are adults, usually, hopefully. But how he would keep them engaged with like a joke here and there or something really interesting, or the way he used to tell a story. But then later on, and I'm not comparing the two, but Steve Jobs' presentations, like when he used to do Apple keynotes and his addresses, he could just hold hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people in the palm of his hand with how he would tell a story or deliver. Then fast forward, you got things like one of the best live performances I've ever seen was Big Daddy Kane.
Yeah.
And that was when he was like 50.
Yeah.
So
mastered it by then.
Mate, mastered it. But then you watch old videos of him like on a little stage, like when he was a lot younger.
Yeah.
He still had that presence, that delivery, that way of engaging an audience, and that's kind of what inspires me. So when I go and perform, I'm 1% at that level.
Yeah.
But that's what I aspire to be.
I'd give you at least.
That makes sense. Oh, thank you.
2%. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. When I first started doing poetry, I had the words and stuff, but my delivery wasn't great. That was something I had to learn. I quite early on, my ex-wife was a teacher at a college. She's an English teacher, and they had World Poetry Day coming up, and someone in her department was like, "Oh, do you think Jake would come in and do something?" So I like rounded up a few poets who were better than me, but people that I'd met on my poetry journey, and took them along, and we did like a workshop for the kids. And afterwards, my ex-wife was like, "You're good. Your poetry's really good, but the other guys really perform theirs, and you only really perform one of yours." And I remember taking that away and thinking about it, and thinking, "Yeah, I've got to figure out how to perform my poetry, because when I watch people who can perform their poetry and are comfortable on stage, they are impressive. And if I want to be a good poet, then that's something I've got to work on." And I think a lot of that was early on performance anxiety. Yeah. Not being used to it. These days, I still get nervous before every single one, but I'm not as anxious as I used to get.
I think I'm the complete opposite. I'm anxious about the material, not the performance.
Yeah.
So I don't get nervous. I'm perfectly comfortable going and performing, but I aspire for my content to match what I want it to. What I want to perform like.
Yeah, and I was talking to my friend Em Hunter recently. She's an incredible poet. She's Hunter Poetry on Instagram, and she put up a story about her feeling anxious before a show, and I sort of replied saying like, "You're brilliant. You don't have to worry about how good you are, because like you know you're good. People that you really respect tell you how good you are. You've not got to worry about your performance. You always deliver." And she came back to me and was like, "Thank you. I really appreciate that. But I'm not worrying about how good I am. I'm almost panicking about what if I lose my voice or something terrible happens. Like, there's all these different anxieties.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
My first instinct was like, she's got imposter syndrome, like, because I get a bit of that, and was like trying to build her up. But actually, she's literally worried about like losing her voice halfway through a poem.
But imagine being a great sportsman, and you're worried about turning your ankle.
Yeah.
Etc.
Yeah. They're all different.
Yeah.
I've listened to a couple of Roy Keane interviews recently. I don't know why I just went on a bit of a Roy Keane trip. And
he's fascinating to listen to.
He is. He's a very interesting man.
He
doesn't. I don't think he sees any of his flaws whatsoever.
No.
But he was talking about towards the end of his career. There was a point where he got like quite skinny and drawn out, and I didn't think about it at the time. But now he said I do remember him looking very skinny and quite gaunt in his face. Yeah. And he said he was trying to live like. They had like a couple of French or Italian players come into the team, and he was like, they're proper footballers. I need to start living like them. And he was like, I was like living on salads, and I lost a load of weight, and I was like 5% body fat, and I'd get cold in the middle of the game. So rather than thinking about how I was playing, I was worrying about the second half when I get a bit cold because I'm not carrying as much body fat.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And I was like, this is fascinating. You don't think about Roy Keane having these little insecurities.
Yeah.
And he said that the thing that sorted him out was his mum coming to visit him and just being like, what's going on with you? And he was like, I'm on this like new athlete's diet. And she was like, shut up and eat a potato. And he was like, I did. I started eating normally again.
I think that's a good example of just don't be afraid to share your anxieties or your woes with people.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's so obvious once you get to a confidence or comfortability, if that is a word, that you can share your emotions with people, that everybody feels the same as you.
Yeah.
Yet when you feel anxious, you feel like you're the only person in the room like it.
Yeah. I think that's probably why I don't worry about sharing stuff too much on the stage, because before I started doing poetry, I started sharing with my friends my anxiety and telling them how I was feeling after just dealing with it on my own for years, and suddenly realising, I have an anxiety disorder, this isn't a normal thing. I started learning about it, and then I started speaking to my friends about it. And the amount of people you tell who go, yeah, I get stuff like that as well. And it's no one's got it exactly the same. But I had such positive experiences from telling people about how I was feeling, rather than just trying to gut it out and go to things I didn't want to go and be hate all night and get home and just be absolutely exhausted just from having to pretend to be okay. When I started sharing that, it became easier. People understood. People, one of my mates, he wouldn't mind leaving a sporting event early because he didn't hate crowds. We went to watch the NFL, and it was coming towards the end, and it was a draw, and they were probably going to go to extra time. But I'm sitting there shaking my leg, and he's like, "You want to go, don't you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't want to be on the train with everyone." So he happily got up and left. Towards the end, they went into double overtime. We missed loads, but he did. Yeah, once I started sharing it, your friends they do realise. So I think it's a really good thing to share.
The support network just widens.
Yeah, and when you meet creative people and have creative friends, you realise that so many creatives have it.
Yeah.
And self-doubt is rife, and
creativity is personal.
Yeah.
And we know how difficult it is sharing personal stuff.
Yeah.
Regardless of what the media or form.
100%, yeah. Yeah, every time I perform a new poem, I'm worried that it's shit and I've lost it. They like the last one, and I think this one's better than the last one, but what if this one's changed enough that they're like, oh no, this is shit. So the first performance is always...
Well, again, you're assuming that they care.
Assuming that they care. I was thinking more about...
And you're assuming that people will judge one poem against another.
Yeah.
And not see it as an individual body of work.
Yeah. I guess people are not necessarily going to a show to see what Jake Nathan's doing.
No.
I'm not on the bill. I'm doing the open mic. I've done a few headliners. But, yeah.
But what I mean is they'll appreciate each poem as its own
Absolutely,
poem.
Yeah.
How do you say this poem's better than that poem? It's different subject matter, different everything.
Absolutely, yeah. It's very hard to rank poets or poems, and also when you look at your work, you see the work, but when other people listen to it or see it, they see it as a piece. You see the choices you made, they don't see any of that. They just see it as a finished article, and they don't see the mistakes. Like when you see people stumble over lines, and they're like, "Oh, I fucked this up," and you go, "I didn't realise,
Yeah.
didn't know you did that."
In fact, funnily enough, today, whether or not this is synchronicity, one of my producer friends actually posted on Instagram a quote that embodies what you just said.
What is it?
So it's a student talking to his teacher, and there's a little picture of a Buddhist at the bottom. I think it's been made up. I don't think this is actually captured in a
Buddhist text.
Yeah, exactly, but either way. So the student says, whenever I listen to recordings of myself, all that I hear are mistakes. The teacher says, that's because you're listening to yourself and not the music. The student replies, don't others hear the same mistakes? And the teacher says, what you hear is a mistake, others hear your humanity.
Yeah.
Which I think is right.
Yeah. When we listen to our stuff back and we think, I could have done that better, I should have done this, I should have done that. Nobody else thinks about that. They just hear a piece and they enjoy it or they don't.
Yeah. And if you fuck up, embrace it, acknowledge it, give the audience a wink and carry on. Like.
I did a show, I was performing a poem that I know really well and I know it off by heart, but I got to this line and I just didn't have the next one. And the way that I memorise things, I memorise it in a flow, so I can't just pick it up and carry on. I need to get the flow to be able to finish the poem and stuff like that. And I was standing on stage really anxious. I'm sorry, I forgot it. Berating myself internally, what are you doing? You're a fucking idiot. And ended up getting off of, and I didn't get off stage. I was like, oh, I'll come back to that, knowing that I wouldn't. I went and did another 2 poems, and I just got off stage. And then later on in the show, a more experienced poet went up and was performing a poem and did the same thing, got stuck on a line, and he just took a step back off the mic. I went, sorry, let me just get this. And he thought about it quietly. He didn't keep apologising. He was just took his time. He was like, I know I've got it. Where is it? And eventually got it and went, okay. And he went back into it. And there wasn't this embarrassment for him. Mm. And he got off stage and I was just you've inspired me there. That's a lesson that I need to learn, to have to just take my time and not panic too much. Mm. And he was like, it happens, mate. No one's sitting down there thinking, what's this what the fuck's he doing? He shouldn't be on stage. They're all egging you. They want you to get it. You've not got to worry about it. People
the
want you to be good.
Full of supporters.
Yeah.
Just people wishing they had your bravery and that they could do what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I learnt a lesson that day. And you are always more worried about what you're doing than anyone else is.
It's true.
Generally, an audience wants you to be good because they want to see a good show. No one's actively wanting you to be shit, except me when you're on.
I think it's a great place to end our chat about creative anxiety.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's been a good chat, mate. Thanks. Join us next time for our next episode, which will be in a couple of weeks. We're going to bring these out every other Sunday.
Space them out for you.
Yeah, or maybe drop a few little bombshells in between, depending on what happens. But yeah, you could have been anywhere in the world tonight, but you chose to be with
Jake Nathan
and SVNTY6. Be kind to each other. Yeah, words in chalk. Be kind to each other, team. Be kind to each other, team.
Keep this all in.
Spoken word artist, you see.
Start again.
Words.